Hello everyone, I'm Alex Dykes, and this is a Graco Classic Ride 50 child seat, which means of course it is time for our weekly child seat review segment. And today we're taking a look at the 2014 and the 2015 Subaru Forester. Now, not a whole lot's changed for the 2015 model year in the Forester, but if you want to know what has, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel. There's a little button down there below your screen, and the full review of this vehicle will be out in about 2 to 3 days, so join us for that. Now, I suppose you could call the Forester one of the very original crossovers, because the Forester started its life as a station wagon with sort of a tall, jacked up greenhouse inserted right back here. That's been changed for this generation of Forester, and it really looks much more like a conventional crossover vehicle, but it hasn't lost any of that Subaru practicality on the inside. In this generation, the Forester has grown like most other vehicles out there, and that really does play a positive role when it comes to inserting child seats in the back. Now, it is still not quite as long as some of those other small crossovers out there. So right here I have a Graco Classic Ride 50 child seat facing rearward in this car. This front seat is all the way back in its tracks. And as you can see, this is really not an ideal position. This child seat can't be installed properly right behind this seat. And this seat is, of course, touching this rearward facing child seat. That's also not advised. If, however, I move this child seat over here to right behind the driver's seat, you can see it is possible to insert a child seat properly right behind a 6-foot-tall person up front. You actually could be a little bit taller in the passenger side of the Forester, but right here on the driver's side, this is just about as far back as you can have the seat and still insert a rearward facing child seat. If I move the child seat to the middle position, the increased width in this generation of Forester really helps out, because it would be possible to fit 2 larger people up front and have 1 rearward facing child seat right here in the middle. When it comes to inserting child seats in the rear, I was a little bit concerned about the Forester right up front, because the Forester isn't as wide on the outside as its direct competitors in this segment, namely the RAV4, the Rogue, and something like a Cherokee. However, on the inside, it does manage to be wider across the rear bench than most of those other competitors. A lot of that difference has to do with the overall profile of the Forester. It doesn't narrow in right as much at this greenhouse level, which is where the glass is in the car, as a number of those other competitors. We also have door panels that are a little bit thinner than those other competitors, meaning you get more hip room and more room around the middle, which makes it easier to put passengers as well as child seats in the Forester. If I can grab this seatbelt and strap myself in. Now that I've strapped myself in, it is easy to see this is just about as comfortable as your average mid-sized crossover. These rear seats do have a little bit of a recline to them. There's sort of a little canvas pull here that I can pull and recline them forward and backward. Although Subaru does tell us that these seats should be in their upright position if you're going to put child seats right here in the back. One thing also to notice is that I do have a decent amount of room between that child seat right over there and the door, and that is important in vehicles equipped with side curtain airbags like the Forester is, because you do want room for those side curtain airbags to deploy in the event of a side impact. In order to install this middle child seat, I did have to remove the middle seat headrest, but that was relatively easy to do. I now have child seat number 3 in the car, and let's see how that fits if I close the door. And as you can see, there is a decent amount of room there for this third child seat, and I have about 1.5 inches between the child seat and the door, and that again is important in the event of a side impact. This is a perfect example of why you shouldn't go by exterior dimensions when you're checking out child seats in a car. You should generally focus on hip room and shoulder room, because the more room you have in those 2 measurements, the better off child seats will fit in the rear. The Forester provides latch anchors for the outboard seat positions only, and they are fairly well hidden in our leather-equipped XT model. They're a decent amount back there, so as you can see, they are relatively easy to find. However, you just have to fish for them a little bit, and you can see how deep inside those latch anchors really are. Removing the latch anchor is a little bit trickier than some other vehicles, but they are nicely hidden, and you really can't feel them when you're sitting in the seat. The Forester's growth over previous generations really has a positive impact right back here in the cargo area as well. If I take out these 2 large roller bags, you can see we have a relatively spacious cargo area right back here. In addition to those manual releases on the seat backs themselves, we also have a power release mechanism on both the 60 and the 40 sides of the seat backs to help you fold that second row forward more easily. If we lift up the cargo load floor, we find some additional storage right down here below that load floor. We have a styrofoam divider helping you sort your cargo out a little bit more easily back here. And if we pull this completely out of the vehicle, you can see how deep this is. And that's because there's actually a donut spare tire right down there, but it looks like there's enough room to put a full-size spare tire if you do want one in your vehicle. Now it's time to put those child seats in the car. Let's grab them out. Now, I've inserted the child seats in this fashion because when you do it this way, it's easy to see how tall this cargo compartment is. The cargo compartment in the Forester is tall and relatively square. That means it's easy to put larger and bulkier items right back here in the back of the Forester than in some of the other crossovers. Especially the crossovers that have a very drastically sloping roofline towards the back, and they end up having a relatively small hatch and a relatively sloping hatch as well. That's not going on in the Forester. This is very upright, so it's easier to put larger and squarer items right there in the back. And as you can see, these bags will very easily fit right back here with the child seats, and then we should be able to close this cargo hatch very easily on them. Our particular model is equipped with the power tailgate hatch. That is an option on the Forester. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes, and this has been the 2014 and the 2015 Subaru Forester. This particular model is the XT. If you want to know more about this model, then check out my channel in about 2 to 3 days or so. The review should be live by then. In the meantime, click that subscribe banner right down there at the bottom of your screen so you can be updated on all of my latest videos. You can also find me over at facebook.com/AlexandAutos. You can email your questions to alex@alexandautos.com, and I'll see you next week.